The vastness of space was alive with movement, though it was quiet in ways that humans could never imagine. Millions of stars stretched across the darkness, and between them, ships of countless alien civilizations floated like tiny specks in an endless ocean. One of these ships, sleek and silver, moved with purpose, scanning star systems for signs of life. Its crew was curious, trained to seek out anything unusual, and they were among the best explorers in their civilization. They had seen planets full of fire, gas, ice, and even worlds where life struggled to exist. But nothing had ever prepared them for what they were about to encounter. A signal flickered across the ship's sensors, subtle and strange. It came from a small blue and green planet, almost hidden among the brightness of its star. The signal was faint, irregular, almost as if the planet itself was breathing. The crew leaned closer, their elongated eyes reflecting the light from the ship's screens. "This is unlike anything we've ever detected," said one of the officers, a voice that seemed to hum more than speak. "It is alive, truly alive." They moved closer, carefully, not wanting to alarm anything that might dwell below. From orbit, the planet looked calm at first. Clouds swirled over oceans that shimmered with sunlight, and continents stretched like patches of green and brown, quilted across the surface. But as the sensors adjusted, the crew realized the true wonder. The planet teemed with life. Forests moved with the wind, rivers twisted like silver ribbons, and in the shallow waters, tiny creatures darted in patterns that looked almost like dancing. What fascinated them most were the beings walking across the land. They were varied in shape, moving in groups, building, thinking, and creating in ways that the aliens had never witnessed. Some carried objects, others gestured to one another with a language of gestures and sounds that were complex and expressive. They built cities that gleamed in the sunlight, spreading in patterns that were both chaotic and structured. The aliens had encountered life before, but never anything so intricate, so layered, so alive in its thought and emotion. The captain of the ship stared at the screen for a long moment silent. Around him, the crew whispered to each other, each message tinged with awe. "It is extraordinary," the captain finally said. "Every world we've seen has a type of life, yes, but nothing with this level of variety and emotion. This planet, it is a living symphony." The ship hovered, observing, quietly. For hours, perhaps days, they watched without interruption, cataloging, analyzing, and debating among themselves. Some argued that they should reveal themselves immediately, while others warned that the beings below might not understand, might panic. They had learned, through centuries of exploration, that intelligence could be both fragile and dangerous. They did not wish to destroy what they had discovered before they even understood it. Meanwhile, the beings below went about their lives, completely unaware that their world had been spotted. In a bustling city, people moved through streets, laughed, argued, and worked tirelessly. Some stared at the sky, not knowing that eyes from another world were staring back. Across oceans and forests, life continued in harmony and chaos alike. Creatures hunted, nested, and migrated, forming the invisible threads that held the planet together. The aliens recorded everything, trying to understand not just what was happening, but why it was happening. What made this planet so special? As the days passed, the crew began to notice patterns. The beings below were connected in ways that were subtle and complex. They created tools, communicated emotions, and built societies that balanced cooperation and competition. Even their mistakes were revealing. Conflicts arose, yet solutions followed. It was a strange and beautiful dance, and the aliens could not look away. One of the junior officers, who had joined the mission for her curiosity more than anything else, spoke up quietly. "They have art," she said, pointing to images projected on the screen. Colors and forms that seemed chaotic at first glance revealed intention and emotion. Music, poetry, and movement were everywhere, even in the smallest of villages. "It is as if everything they touch becomes an expression," she whispered. The captain nodded. "Exactly. They do not simply survive. They create, they feel, they reflect. This is not just life. This is life aware of itself." As they continued to watch, a storm began to form over a vast forest. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the trees in sharp bursts. Animals ran, birds took flight, and the creatures below scurried for shelter. From their distant vantage point, the aliens felt a strange sense of connection, as though the energy of the storm touched them too. The planet was alive in every sense, not just in the obvious movements of its inhabitants, but in the air, the water, the soil, and even in the storms themselves. Night fell on the planet, and the lights of human civilization glowed softly across the continents. Cities looked like constellations scattered over the surface, and the aliens could see the flickering of fire, the glow of lamps, and the reflections in rivers and lakes. Even from a distance, there was intelligence in the patterns, roads, buildings, and networks of light that suggested thought and planning. The captain leaned back in his seat, and for a moment, the hum of the ship seemed to fade. "We must be careful," he said. "We have discovered something incredible, something unique, and yet we are visitors in its story. We must observe without interfering, at least for now." The crew agreed, though it was hard. Every moment on the ship brought new wonders. A school of flying creatures gliding over a canyon, a human child reaching for the stars, a festival of lights in a village far from the cities. Each moment filled them with admiration and curiosity. They took notes, captured images, and tried to understand, but they knew words and calculations could not fully describe what they saw. And so, the ship stayed in orbit, silent and careful, while the planet below continued unaware of its new audience. It was a world alive, complex, and beautiful beyond measure. The crew knew that they had found something that would change their understanding of the galaxy forever. Earth was not just another planet. It was a jewel of life, a symphony of thought, emotion, and creation. In that silence between the stars, the aliens felt something that few of their kind ever felt. Wonder. Pure, simple, uncontainable wonder. The galaxy had many worlds, but Earth was different. It had life, intelligence, and heart, all intertwined in ways that made the aliens stop and simply watch, humbled by the sheer miracle of existence. No one spoke for a long time. The ship drifted above the planet, and the crew let themselves feel what they had discovered. It was a quiet kind of awe, deep and lasting, the kind that made time itself seem slower. They understood that they had just begun a journey, one that could take them to the edge of understanding, one that could connect them with a species they had only just begun to know. For now, they would watch, they would wait, they would learn. And Earth, unaware of its new audience, spun gently in space, full of life, full of promise, and full of wonder. The alien ship stayed in orbit around the small blue planet, its sensors constantly gathering information. What they saw amazed them more with each passing hour. The planet was alive in ways far more intricate than they had ever imagined. From the highest mountain peaks to the deepest oceans, life moved and shifted in an endless rhythm. The aliens noticed patterns and behaviors that were both strange and beautiful. Animals hunted, nested, and migrated with instinctive precision, while humans, curious and unpredictable, shaped the world in ways that were astonishing. The crew spent hours analyzing the humans, trying to understand their nature. They watched families in cities and villages, how they cared for one another, how they built homes, and how they created tools. They observed farmers planting seeds, scientists studying the stars, and artists painting vivid pictures. Even the smallest gestures, like a smile shared between friends or a child reaching for a tree branch, fascinated the aliens. These beings were alive not only physically, but emotionally and intellectually. The captain pointed to the screen, showing a bustling city with moving vehicles, lights, and thousands of people crossing streets. They are organized, yet chaotic, intelligent, yet emotional. No other species we have studied balances these aspects so perfectly. One of the officers leaned closer, her eyes reflecting the city lights on the screen. "It's the way they express themselves," she said softly. "Through art, through sound, through movement, even their mistakes tell a story. Every action has meaning, even if it seems random." The aliens also noticed that humans were not perfect. There were conflicts, arguments, and even violence. Wars had scarred the planet, and the creatures below had sometimes harmed each other without reason. But the aliens realized this was part of the complexity. Life was not just about survival. It was about learning, adapting, and growing. Even in mistakes, there was a form of intelligence, a kind of resilience that made the species unique. They watched humans invent machines that could fly, devices that could communicate over great distances, and tools that could heal injuries. Some humans explored the skies and space above, showing curiosity that rivaled the aliens' own. The ship's sensors captured patterns in their behavior, but the aliens struggled to fully understand their emotions. Fear, love, joy, anger, and wonder were all expressed at once, often in ways that seemed contradictory, yet perfectly balanced. The planet itself responded to human activity. Cities glowed with lights at night, rivers were diverted for farming, and forests were sometimes cleared to make way for roads and homes. The aliens saw that humans could both nurture and harm their environment, yet there was also care and intentionality in how they lived. People planted trees, built reserves for animals, and learned from the mistakes of previous generations. The planet and its inhabitants were in a delicate dance, one that required attention, intelligence, and care. As the days passed, the aliens began to understand human culture in a deeper way. They watched festivals where music, dance, and colors filled the streets. They saw gatherings of people celebrating, mourning, or simply enjoying each other's company. These rituals, the aliens realized, were not just entertainment. They were expressions of history, memory, and emotion. Each song, each dance, each painting was a story told by humans, a way to connect with each other and the world around them. In remote areas, the aliens discovered something even more fascinating. Humans were not only focused on survival, they were also focused on understanding the universe. They built telescopes to study the stars, sent machines to other planets, and developed theories about life and existence. The aliens were struck by the curiosity of humans, the way they constantly questioned, explored, and imagined possibilities beyond what was immediately visible. One evening, the captain called the crew together. "We are witnessing a species unlike any other," he said. "They are fragile and strong at the same time. They create, they destroy, they love, they fight. But above all, they strive to understand themselves and their place in the universe. That is something we have never encountered." The crew nodded, silent in their agreement. Every day brought new surprises. In a quiet forest, they saw a human child tracking animals, learning from nature itself. In a city, they saw a group of people working together to build a bridge, their cooperation blending effort, skill, and creativity. Across oceans, humans sailed on water in small boats, discovering new lands and interacting with unfamiliar creatures. The aliens also began to notice something subtle. Humans were connected, not only to one another, but also to the planet itself. Even in cities filled With machines and concrete, there were gardens, parks, and trees planted for shade or beauty. Humans seemed aware, at some level, that they were part of a larger system, even if they did not fully understand it. At night, when the humans slept, the planet's activity continued. Storms formed over the oceans, winds swept across deserts, and animals moved quietly through forests. The aliens could sense a rhythm, a pulse that connected all life on the planet. It was as if the planet itself was alive, and humans were one of its most remarkable expressions. The junior officer, who had joined the mission out of curiosity, spoke again, her voice full of awe. "They are capable of great destruction," she said, "but they are also capable of incredible beauty and intelligence. I think they might be ready for more than we realize." The captain studied the humans below, his mind racing with possibilities. "Perhaps," he said, "but we must be patient. We cannot interfere. Observation is our duty. We can learn, and maybe someday we can decide if contact is wise. For now, we watch, and we understand. That is enough." Even as the aliens debated their next steps, humans continued their lives without noticing the distant eyes above them. Children laughed in fields, elders shared stories, and communities worked to survive and thrive. In cities, music played from windows, and lights flickered across streets as people moved home at night. Across forests and deserts, the quiet hum of life continued in its natural rhythm. Sometimes, humans looked up at the sky, wondering if they were alone. Stars twinkled, the moon shone bright, and comets streaked across the night. The aliens watched these moments closely, fascinated by the sense of curiosity that humans displayed. Even without knowledge of the aliens, humans seemed to reach for something beyond themselves, as if they sensed a larger world waiting to be discovered. And the aliens, from their silent vantage point, felt something unusual. They were not just observing, they were learning. The humans, in all their imperfection, were teaching the aliens about resilience, creativity, emotion, and hope. Each day brought new lessons. Each interaction among humans revealed deeper patterns. By the time the humans awoke again, the aliens had completed countless observations. They had cataloged behaviors, studied emotional expressions, and even begun to understand the underlying motivations of the species. What struck them most was the humans' capacity for growth. They made mistakes, yes, but they also adapted, learned, and reached for something better. The captain finally spoke, a tone of quiet reverence in his voice. "We have discovered a world unlike any other. Not just life, but life aware of itself. Not just existence, but curiosity and creation intertwined. This planet is species. It is extraordinary. The galaxy should know of this." The crew remained silent for a moment, letting the magnitude of their discovery sink in. They had traveled through countless systems, seen planets of fire and ice, worlds rich with minerals and gas, but nothing had ever compared to the wonder they now witnessed. Earth was alive in every sense, and humans were its most remarkable expression. As the ship drifted above the planet, stars reflecting off its surface, the crew made a silent agreement. They would continue their observation, but carefully, respectfully. They would not interfere yet, for Earth's story was still unfolding. And they, for the first time, felt something rare and profound. Hope. Hope that this species, fragile and unpredictable as it was, might one day rise to its full potential. And so the alien ship remained, quietly observing, learning, and marveling. Earth turned beneath them, unaware of the distant eyes watching, thriving, struggling, and creating. In the rhythm of life, in the hum of cities, and the quiet of forests, the aliens found wonder. And for the first time in centuries, they realized that they had discovered something more than life. They had discovered a story worth watching, worth understanding, and worth protecting. For months, the alien ship continued its silent observation of the small blue planet. From orbit, the crew could see every corner of the world, the vast oceans, rolling mountains, dense forests, and sprawling cities. They watched humans go about, their lives with fascination, studying not only their movements and decisions, but also the emotions behind them. Each day revealed new layers of complexity. Humans were unpredictable, creative, and often contradictory. They could act with kindness and cruelty in the same moment, but it was this very unpredictability that made them extraordinary. It was during one quiet night that the aliens first noticed signs that humans might be aware of, something beyond their understanding. Across the planet, in cities and remote villages alike, people were pointing at the sky, whispering to one another, and recording strange phenomena. Bright lights appeared in patterns that did not match airplanes or satellites. And in the deserts and open oceans, flashes of energy sparked curiosity and fear. People shared videos and photos online, debating whether these were natural occurrences, secret military tests, or something far stranger. Governments quietly investigated these incidents. Scientists worked late into the night analyzing unusual signals and mysterious flashes. News networks broadcast stories of unexplained events, but most of the world dismissed them as optical illusions or technical glitches. Yet a small but growing number of humans became convinced that the planet was no longer alone in the universe. They searched the skies, watched the stars, and wondered if someone or something was watching them back. The alien crew observed this human curiosity with great interest. They had expected secrecy and denial, but what they saw instead was awe, determination, and hope. Humans wanted to know the truth, even if it frightened them. Some humans reacted with fear, imagining invaders or threats. Others responded with wonder, imagining new friends and new possibilities. Both reactions fascinated the aliens. They had studied intelligence before, but they had never seen a species so emotionally engaged with the unknown, so willing to question and explore without immediate understanding. In the oceans, the aliens noticed human-made vessels moving in strange patterns, as if searching for something beyond ordinary navigation. Submarines explored deep waters, while research teams monitored the skies with telescopes and radar. Even in remote areas, humans were gathering data, recording lights in the sky, and noting unusual behaviors of animals reacting to things invisible to human eyes. It was as if the planet itself was whispering its secrets, and humans were listening, curious and careful. Some humans claimed to have captured images of enormous shapes in the sky, strange orbs that moved with impossible speed, or lights that hovered silently before disappearing. Others reported hearing strange sounds, vibrations, or messages in patterns they could not understand. Most dismissed these experiences as imagination or coincidence, yet a few could not ignore the evidence. Small groups formed, discussing what they had seen, testing theories, and even building devices in hopes of receiving signals from the unknown. The aliens observed all of this with growing excitement. They realized that humans were not passive. They did not simply live and survive. They sought, questioned, and imagined. Even without knowing the aliens' presence, humans were preparing themselves in subtle ways. They built tools to explore, instruments to detect signals, and communities to share information. This curiosity, the aliens realized, was a rare and powerful trait. Few species they had encountered had shown such determination to understand. Their place in the cosmos. One officer pointed to a city where hundreds of people had gathered on rooftops, staring at a series of bright lights dancing across the night sky. "They are trying to reach out," she said, "not knowing what they are reaching for, but they sense something beyond themselves. They are aware, at some level, that they are not alone." The captain nodded. "This is remarkable. They are awakening." Even without direct contact, they are learning, imagining, and preparing. We must continue to observe, but we must also consider, how will we reveal ourselves when the time is right? Humans began leaving messages online, videos, and posts speculating about the strange events in the sky. Communities formed around these mysteries. Some were skeptical, while others were convinced that intelligent life beyond Earth had been discovered. The aliens watched these discussions closely. They noticed how humans debated respectfully and violently, with fear and wonder intertwined. It was messy, chaotic, yet deeply human. In rural areas, children spoke of lights they had seen in the sky, while adults struggled to explain them. Some elders dismissed these stories, but younger generations questioned everything. Schools began projects on space exploration, astronomy, and the possibility of life beyond the planet. Even though humans could not see the aliens directly, their curiosity and imagination were already bridging the gap between worlds. The alien crew also observed the humans' emotional responses. Fear led to preparation. People built shelters, developed strategies, and strengthened communities. Excitement led to creativity. New inventions, new theories, and artistic expressions emerged. Curiosity led to exploration. Telescopes, research, vessels, and deep-sea submersibles expanded human understanding. The aliens realized that the humans' emotions were not weaknesses, but strengths, shaping the way they approached the unknown. It was during this time that the aliens first sent a subtle, unnoticeable signal to Earth, not to communicate directly, but to test the humans' reactions. The signal was brief, almost imperceptible, embedded in the patterns of light in the sky. Some humans noticed anomalies, reporting them in forums and discussions. Others did not see them at all. The aliens monitored the responses carefully, noting which humans were curious, which were fearful, and which ignored the phenomena entirely. They discovered something incredible. Humans were highly adaptable. Those who were initially afraid quickly adjusted, questioning their fears and seeking understanding. Those who were curious became more determined, building devices and collecting data. The species responded to the unknown with flexibility and resilience. It was clear that humans were not only intelligent, but capable of growth, adaptation, and cooperation under uncertainty. One of the junior officers, still young and fascinated by humans, commented, "They may be small, fragile, and unpredictable, but their minds are powerful. They are learning faster than we expected." The captain agreed, "And they will continue to learn. Every observation we make only strengthens them. Soon, they may be ready for more than subtle signals. Soon, they may be ready for direct contact." Across the planet, humanity's curiosity grew stronger. Amateur astronomers reported strange orbs in the sky. Scientists discussed unexplained readings from satellites. Children asked questions that adults could not answer. Families gathered at night to watch the stars, imagining distant worlds and other beings. The aliens observed this awakening feeling, a mixture of anticipation and admiration. Humans were preparing themselves, not yet knowing it. Even in places far from cities, humans reacted to the unknown. In deserts, mountains, and forests, small groups noticed unusual patterns, lights, sounds, or movements that did not fit natural explanations. They shared their findings cautiously, sometimes laughed at, sometimes taken seriously. But in each case, the seed of awareness had been planted. Humanity's eyes had begun to open to the larger universe, and the aliens were thrilled to witness this. The captain finally spoke to the crew as they watched the planet together. "We are witnessing the birth of understanding. Even without us stepping forward, this species is discovering the universe on its own terms. Our presence is influencing them in subtle ways, and yet we are invisible. This is delicate work." They must not fear us, but they must respect what they do not yet know. The crew nodded in agreement, each member feeling the weight and wonder of their mission. Observation had become more than study. It was a silent mentorship. The aliens were guiding humanity without revealing themselves, encouraging growth, curiosity, and resilience. They marveled at the humans' ability to question, to imagine, and to hope. And so, Earth continued spinning beneath them, a world unaware of its new audience. Humans lived, laughed, and explored, their eyes slowly turning skyward. Every gesture, every invention, every moment of curiosity added to the story the aliens were now a part of. The species was awakening, preparing for a future beyond their wildest dreams, and the aliens could only watch, quietly cheering for them from the stars. The planet was alive in ways more profound than even the aliens had imagined. The humans, fragile yet resilient, curious yet cautious, were beginning to sense the vastness of the universe and their place within it. The crew knew that soon Earth would no longer be a secret. But for now, they continued to observe, fascinated by the wonder of a species discovering itself while looking out into the cosmos. For the aliens, this was no longer just a mission of exploration. It was a mission of discovery, not just of a planet, but of intelligence, emotion, and spirit. Humanity had begun to awaken to something greater, and the galaxy would never be the same. A day finally came when the aliens decided it was time to reveal themselves. From orbit, their ship shimmered against the sunlight, glowing with colors that humans had never seen before. It moved with a grace that made every motion seem intentional, almost like a living being rather than a machine. And then, for the first time, humans across the globe noticed something extraordinary. It started with strange lights in the sky, peering over cities, oceans, and forests alike. People looked up, pointing fingers, phones raised to capture the moment. Bright orbs hovered silently, moving in ways no human technology could replicate. Some people gasped in fear, believing that they were under attack. Others stood in awe, hearts pounding as their minds struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. The lights shifted, forming patterns in the sky circles, lines and symbols that seemed to carry meaning. Though no one could yet understand it, news outlets scrambled to report the events. Headlines flashed across screens. Unexplained lights over cities. Sky phenomena mystify scientists. And is this evidence of extraterrestrial life? Social media erupted. Millions of people shared videos, images, and personal accounts debating what they were witnessing. Governments tried to maintain calm, but even the most rational leaders could not explain the phenomenon. Military units were put on alert, while scientists worked frantically to gather data and analyze the signals. In the midst of this chaos, small groups of humans felt something else, curiosity and wonder. Even in fear, they were fascinated. They stared at the sky not with panic, but with awe, realizing that something far greater than themselves had arrived. Across cities and countrysides, people left their homes, gathering in open spaces to watch the sky together. Families, friends, and strangers alike shared the moment, united in the recognition that the universe was larger, more mysterious, and more beautiful than they had ever imagined. The aliens watched these reactions with interest. Their ship hovered silently, careful not to startle or harm. They had studied humans for months and understood that their first direct appearance would be overwhelming. And yet, humans adapted quickly. They questioned, they analyzed, they speculated, and in that process, they began to approach the unknown not with hostility, but with the first spark of understanding. For some, the arrival of the aliens sparked fear. People panicked, imagining invasion or destruction. Governments issued emergency warnings, and in some areas, streets emptied as citizens sought shelter. In other places, however, fear gave way to fascination. Children looked up with wide eyes, their imaginations ignited. Adults whispered theories, some thinking of friends, some thinking of the impossible. Artists began sketching the shapes in the sky, musicians composing songs inspired by the lights, and writers capturing the events in words. Humanity responded not only with caution, but with creation. Scientists were among the first to try and communicate, sending signals into the sky in the hope that someone or something was listening. They broadcast images of the planet, sounds of human languages, and symbols representing mathematics and science. The aliens responded subtly, sending patterns of light and vibration that slowly formed understanding. It was not words, as humans knew them, but a language of symbols and energy, simple yet profound. Through these initial interactions, humanity realized something astonishing. The visitors were not hostile. They did not attack, did not destroy, and did not demand anything. Their presence alone, their intelligence and sophistication, conveyed a message of curiosity, observation, and cautious connection. People felt a strange mixture of fear and relief. For the first time, they understood that the universe was not empty, and that intelligent life existed beyond Earth, but that this life might not be a threat. Across the planet, communities reacted differently. In cities, large crowds gathered to watch the alien lights, some praying, some cheering, some silently staring in disbelief. In remote villages and deserts, people were equally awestruck, looking up at the sky as a connection to something much larger than themselves. Social media and news channels buzzed with speculation, but amid all the confusion, a shared human feeling emerged: wonder. Even the government struggled to interpret the visitors' intentions. Military leaders debated whether to prepare for conflict, while scientists argued for cautious observation and communication. Diplomats tried to reach consensus, yet none could fully comprehend the beings in orbit. The aliens' presence was not a threat, yet their intelligence, technology, and control over space were undeniable. Humanity realized, perhaps for the first time, that they were not at the center of the universe, and that realization was humbling. Children were the most amazed. Across the world, kids pointed at the sky, asking questions that adults could not answer. Why are they here? Do they know us? Can we talk to them? Their curiosity, untainted by fear or politics, was pure and instinctive. The aliens observed these reactions carefully, recognizing the innocence and intelligence in the younger generation. They were the ones who would most quickly grasp the message and the possibilities the visitors represented. The aliens decided to make a subtle gesture, a demonstration of understanding and non-hostility. Lights in the sky shifted, forming a spiral, then a wave, and finally a shape that resembled a human hand reaching upward. The gesture was simple but unmistakable, a sign of peace, recognition, and connection. Those who saw it were struck silent, hearts racing as if witnessing a dream come to life. Across the globe, people stopped their daily routines, staring in awe at the sky and feeling, for the first time, truly small yet deeply connected to something vast. Scientists began documenting every movement, every light, every change in the aliens' patterns. They tried to decode the language, finding repetition, symmetry, and intention in each display. Some researchers speculated that the aliens were testing human responses, seeing who reacted with fear, who reacted with curiosity, and who responded with understanding. Others simply marveled at the beauty of the display, realizing that intelligence could be expressed in ways beyond sound or writing. Humanity's collective imagination was now fully awakened. Artists painted the sky, poets wrote of distant stars, and musicians composed melodies inspired by the visitors. Across languages and cultures, people shared a common experience, a sense that they were part of a larger story, a story that extended beyond the planet they had always called home. For the first time, humans felt connected to something greater than themselves. Amid all this, the aliens observed another remarkable trait: cooperation. Even in the midst of fear, humans helped one another. Strangers comforted each other in public. Spaces, families looked after children, and communities shared information to reduce confusion. The aliens realized that humanity's strength lay not only in intelligence, but in its ability to work together, even in the face of uncertainty. The first direct contact did not require words. It was a shared understanding, a silent recognition, that two intelligent species now acknowledged each other. Humans felt it in their hearts, a mixture of fear, awe, curiosity, and hope. The aliens felt it as well, marveling at a species capable of growth, creativity, and adaptation. It was the beginning of a connection that would shape the future of both Earth and the galaxy. Even as night fell, the lights remained in the sky, shifting patterns, spirals, and waves, continuing their silent dance. People could not take their eyes away. Cities glowed beneath them, forests were quiet, and oceans reflected the alien brilliance in shimmering waves. Humanity had never experienced anything like this. The realization that they were not alone, that someone had come to observe and perhaps understand them, changed everything. Some humans felt fear lingering, imagining worst-case scenarios. But the majority felt wonder. They had glimpsed intelligence beyond their world, something incomprehensibly vast, yet careful, deliberate, and non-threatening. Across the globe, millions of hearts beat in awe, realizing that life was far larger and more mysterious than they had ever known. The aliens remained in orbit, watching reactions, learning, and understanding. They had chosen this moment carefully, knowing that humanity was ready to witness something extraordinary. And in that moment, Earth itself seemed to pause. Humanity had stepped into a new chapter, one that would define its place in the universe. For the first time, humans understood something beyond science, technology, or imagination. They were no longer alone. And the aliens, seeing the awe, fear, and curiosity of this species, knew they had made the right decision. The first encounter had succeeded, not through words or weapons, but through presence, observation, and a silent offer of peace. As the night deepened, the lights slowly faded, leaving humans to contemplate what they had seen. Across continents, oceans, and deserts, people returned to their homes, hearts full of questions and minds brimming with possibilities. The sky had opened a door, and humanity had stepped through, trembling but eager to explore what lay beyond. And from orbit, the aliens observed, patient and wise, knowing that the journey had only just begun. The story of Earth had reached the stars, and the galaxy was listening. Humanity, fragile yet resilient, curious yet cautious, had finally glimpsed the vastness of the universe, and for the first time, it had felt truly small, truly connected, and truly alive. After the first contact, Earth slowly began to adjust to the reality that it was not alone in the universe. The aliens remained in orbit, but their presence became a quiet, guiding force. People began to realize that these visitors were not here to harm them, but to observe, to share, and perhaps to understand. Across cities and villages, excitement and curiosity began to replace fear. Humanity, for the first time, truly felt the vastness of the universe and its place within it. Scientists were the first to try direct communication. Using patterns of light, sound, and mathematics, they sent messages into the sky, hoping the aliens would respond. To everyone's astonishment, the aliens answered. Simple at first, the communications grew more complex. A flash of light here, a pattern of waves there, forming sequences that humans gradually began to recognize as intentional. Slowly, a bridge of understanding was forming. For the aliens, the process was as much about observing as it was about teaching. They did not impose knowledge, but they shared glimpses of possibilities. Humans learned about distant stars, planets far beyond the reach of telescopes, and the presence of life forms across the galaxy. The aliens explained basic principles of energy, matter, and space travel, not through words, but through demonstrations, visual symbols, and patterns that conveyed meaning. Humanity was learning to see the universe differently, to understand that the world they had known was part of a far greater whole. People from all walks of life were involved. Children, curious and fearless, watched the lights and tried to interpret them. Scientists documented every pattern, searching for logic and meaning. Philosophers and thinkers debated the implications. Artists captured the interactions in paintings, music, and dance, turning these exchanges into expressions of human emotion and imagination. Even those who could not see the aliens directly felt the shift in the world, excitement, the hope, and the sense of connection to something beyond Earth. The aliens, in turn, were fascinated by humans. They watched not only their intelligence, but their creativity, emotions, and empathy. They saw humans helping one another during crisis, expressing compassion for strangers, and celebrating life in ways that seemed chaotic yet harmonious. Every gesture, every interaction, revealed a species capable of deep thought and profound feeling. The aliens were learning from humans, just as humans were learning from them. At first, communication was slow and cautious. Humans struggled to understand the symbols and patterns, often misinterpreting signals or missing subtleties. But the aliens were patient, repeating patterns, refining gestures, and adapting to human learning speed. Slowly, a vocabulary of understanding emerged. Humans realized they could ask questions, express curiosity, and even share ideas. The aliens responded in ways that humans could grasp, demonstrating simple technologies, showing principles of energy manipulation, and illustrating concepts of space travel. This exchange changed humanity in profound ways. Scientists began collaborating on a global scale, realizing that the challenges and mysteries of the universe required cooperation beyond borders. Engineers designed tools inspired by the alien demonstrations, leading to rapid advancements in energy, medicine, and exploration. Philosophers, educators, and leaders worked to prepare societies for the changes ahead, teaching future generations about the universe and the responsibilities of knowledge. Humanity's understanding of itself and the cosmos was expanding faster than ever before. Children were perhaps the most inspired. Across the world, they looked to the skies with new wonder, asking questions their parents could not answer, dreaming of journeys to distant worlds, and imagining friendships with beings from the stars. Their curiosity was unbound by fear or limitation, and the aliens recognized this as the foundation for a future in which humans could truly explore the universe. Humans also began sharing their culture with the visitors. Music, stories, art, and celebrations were transmitted through light patterns, vibrations, and symbols. The aliens observed these expressions with fascination, noting the depth of emotion, creativity, and meaning in human life. They marveled at humanity's ability to blend intellect and feeling, logic and imagination, in ways that made the planet's life richer than any they had previously encountered. As trust grew, the aliens demonstrated practical knowledge. They showed humans ways to harness energy more efficiently, purify water, and protect the environment. They illustrated methods of space navigation, the science of distant planets, and ways to sustain life beyond Earth. Humans adapted these lessons carefully, aware that while the aliens' knowledge was vast, it required careful application and understanding. No one wanted to rush. The stakes were too high, and the lessons too profound. With each passing day, the relationship between humans and the aliens strengthened. Small teams of humans were chosen to observe the aliens more closely, guided by careful instructions and signals. These interactions were cautious, but full of wonder. Humans learned how to communicate across different senses, using light, sound, and patterns rather than speech. They shared Earth's stories, history, and cultures, and the aliens responded by showing glimpses of the wider universe and its civilizations. The impact on humanity was more than technological or scientific. It was emotional. People began to feel part of something larger, a network of life spanning the stars. They saw themselves not as isolated beings, but as contributors to a greater cosmic story. Fear gave way to curiosity, doubt to hope, and isolation to connection. Across the globe, communities celebrated this new understanding, not with weapons or domination, but with learning, art, and cooperation. Even as knowledge expanded, the aliens remained careful not to overwhelm. They understood that humans needed time to integrate what they learned, to grow and adapt at their own pace. Lessons were paced, always leaving room for human intuition and creativity. The visitors had learned from their observation that humans did not thrive under imposition. They thrived under guidance, curiosity, and challenge. In schools, children now studied the stars with new purpose, imagining what lay beyond. Scientists and engineers worked together in ways never seen before, sharing ideas openly and embracing new methods. Families discussed the possibilities of the universe around the dinner table, sparking curiosity and wonder in the youngest minds. Communities engaged in global projects, inspired by the realization that humanity was part of a larger network of life. The aliens observed all of this quietly, taking note of human growth, creativity, and resilience. They saw how fear had been transformed into exploration, uncertainty into curiosity, and chaos into cooperation. Every success, every act of learning, was a step toward the human's potential as a species capable of joining the galactic community. The humans themselves began to realize the magnitude of the moment. For the first time, they understood that their knowledge of the universe had been limited by perception alone. The presence of intelligent life beyond Earth had shifted perspectives, reshaping priorities, relationships, and aspirations. People dreamed bigger, worked together more closely, and approached challenges with a newfound sense of purpose. Even art and culture transformed. Music, paintings, literature, and dance reflected the awe of encountering another intelligence. Stories of the sky, of distant stars, and of the beings observing Earth became a shared cultural memory. These narratives inspired generations, not as fantasies, but as part of humanity's real history and journey. In quiet moments, humans looked up at the stars, feeling both small and connected. They sensed the alien presence, even when unseen, as a gentle guide, a teacher without words, and a witness to their growth. Children laughed under the night sky, scientists debated discoveries, and families shared stories, all under the awareness that the universe was no longer an empty void. Life existed beyond Earth, and humanity had made the first steps toward connection. The aliens, for their part, marveled at the human's capacity for learning, creativity, and emotion. They recognized the fragility of the species, but also its incredible potential. Humanity was not perfect, but it was alive in ways that no other world had shown. Its resilience, curiosity, and compassion made it a unique and extraordinary presence in the galaxy. The exchange of knowledge continued. Humans learned about distant worlds, technologies beyond imagination, and the interconnectedness of life. The aliens learned about Earth's diversity, its cultures, and its passions. Each interaction was a lesson in understanding and growth, reinforcing the idea that intelligence and empathy were inseparable. As time passed, humans began preparing for a future where contact with other civilizations would become more common. They built networks of observation, education, and research designed to handle the challenges and wonders of the universe. Humanity was no longer just surviving. It was evolving, ready to explore, to learn, and to participate in something far greater than itself. And through it all, the aliens watched silently but joyfully. They had come to observe, to teach, and to learn. But in the process, they discovered something unexpected, the depth of human potential. Through curiosity, creativity, compassion, and resilience, humans had proven themselves capable of understanding, growth, and connection on a cosmic scale. The story of Earth was no longer just a story of survival or struggle. It was a story of awakening, of discovery. The bond between humans and the aliens continued to grow, yet the full potential of this relationship was just beginning to reveal itself. Earth had been observed, studied, and guided, and now the planet's inhabitants were awakening to their place in the vastness of the galaxy. Humanity was no longer simply surviving. It was learning, evolving, and dreaming of possibilities once thought impossible. Across continents, people worked to understand the lessons that the aliens had shared. Scientists collaborated globally, exchanging ideas and discoveries with a speed and openness that had never been seen before. Knowledge of energy systems, space travel, and environmental stewardship advanced rapidly, inspired by the subtle guidance of the visitors. Entire industries shifted focus from competition to collaboration, realizing that the challenges of Earth and the universe required unity rather than division. Children, the next generation, were more curious than ever. Schools introduced new ways of thinking, combining science, philosophy, and imagination. Students studied the skies not only to learn about stars, but to understand patterns, signals, and life beyond Earth. They learned that observation was a form of communication, and that understanding required patience, creativity, and empathy. Many spent nights outside, telescopes in hand, dreaming of the day humanity could explore space itself. The arts flourished in this new era. Musicians composed symphonies inspired by patterns of light and vibration from the alien ships. Painters captured the interplay of Earth and the stars, blending imagination with reality. Writers told stories of discovery, hope, and the courage to face the unknown. Even dancers moved in ways that mimicked the signals from the aliens, expressing the unity of intelligence, creativity, and emotion. Human culture expanded, reflecting a deeper awareness of life beyond the planet. The aliens, observing all of this, were amazed by humanity's resilience and adaptability. They saw species-wide intelligence, creativity, and compassion in action. They noticed how humans had turned fear into curiosity, doubt into innovation, and uncertainty into understanding. Even in the smallest gestures, children helping one another, communities sharing resources, strangers comforting strangers, the aliens recognized intelligence intertwined with empathy, a combination rare across the galaxy. Communication had become more advanced. Humans and aliens exchanged information using patterns of light, sound, and subtle vibrations. These communications were not simple messages, but expressions of thought, intention, and curiosity. Humans could ask questions about distant worlds, the principles of energy and life, and even the philosophy of existence. The aliens responded, not with words as humans knew them, but with patterns that conveyed understanding, teaching, and guidance. Governments, too, began to see the benefits of cooperation. Military organizations, initially cautious and fearful, shifted toward science and diplomacy. Leaders learned to work together, realizing that humanity's future depended on unity rather than conflict. Global projects were launched to explore the oceans, atmosphere, and space with new technology inspired by the aliens. Humanity was no longer looking inward, isolated, and competitive, It was looking outward, connected to the universe and its infinite possibilities. Amid these changes, humans also reflected on their relationship with Earth itself. The lessons from the aliens highlighted the planet's fragility and interconnectedness. People worked to restore ecosystems, protect endangered species, and develop sustainable ways of living. Cities became greener, energy cleaner, and communities more aware of the delicate balance that allowed life to thrive. Humanity had learned not only to reach for the stars, but also to care for the home that had nurtured it for millennia. Presence of the aliens inspired a profound sense of hope. Humanity realized that they were not alone, and that intelligence and life existed far beyond the blue planet they called home. This knowledge reshaped beliefs, philosophies, and worldviews. People felt a sense of purpose, that their actions mattered not only for themselves, but for a larger cosmic story. Religion, culture, and science began to find common ground in the shared experience of life in a universe filled with wonder and mystery. Humanity's curiosity also led to exploration beyond Earth. Teams of scientists and engineers built the first spacecraft capable of reaching distant planets, guided by the principles the aliens had shared. They were careful, patient, and respectful, understanding that the universe was vast and full of unknown challenges. Children dreamed of becoming explorers, writers imagined new worlds, and adults prepared for the responsibilities that knowledge and technology demanded. A spirit of adventure and discovery united humanity in a way that had never existed before. Meanwhile, the aliens continued to observe. They had arrived with the intention to study, guide, and learn, and now they marveled at the results. Humans had absorbed knowledge, adapted to challenges, and shown the capacity for empathy, creativity, and cooperation. The species was growing rapidly, not just technologically, but morally and spiritually. The aliens realized that Earth had become a beacon of life, a place where intelligence could thrive and inspire the galaxy itself. Over time, the interactions between humans and aliens grew more nuanced. Humans learned to interpret subtle signals and patterns, understanding not only information, but intention, emotion, and philosophy. The aliens, in turn, learned about human resilience, diversity, and creativity. They observed how humans balanced intellect with empathy, innovation with care, and curiosity with responsibility. The relationship became a partnership of learning and growth, a dialogue between species rather than a one-sided observation dot as humanity adapted. It became clear that Earth's story was changing. The species had stepped into a larger universe, ready to explore, learn, and connect. Individuals felt a new sense of purpose, knowing that their actions could have meaning beyond the planet. Communities embraced cooperation over conflict, creation over destruction, and curiosity over fear. Across the globe, humans shared a new understanding that life was interconnected, fragile, and full of possibility. The alien ships occasionally performed displays of light and movement, not as demonstrations of power, but as shared experiences of beauty and understanding. People gathered beneath these displays, feeling connected to something greater than themselves. They realized that intelligence could be expressed in many ways, not just through technology, but through art, communication, and the simple act of observation. The universe, they now understood, was not a void, but a place of dialogue, learning, and wonder. Children, inspired by these experiences, dreamed bigger. They imagined visiting distant stars, building cities on other planets, and connecting with civilizations beyond imagination. Scientists worked tirelessly to make these dreams a reality, guided by the knowledge and principles shared by the aliens. Humanity had learned that it could reach far beyond its own world, but only by understanding and respecting the universe. It was a part of Dot in quiet moments. People looked at the stars and felt a profound connection. They sensed the aliens' presence, even when unseen, as guides, teachers, and observers. Humanity had learned that knowledge and curiosity were intertwined with empathy and care. They understood that exploration was not merely about conquest, but about understanding, connection, and growth. The aliens, watching from above, smiled, or at least something akin to their version of a smile. Humanity had surpassed their expectations. They had not only survived, but had embraced learning, cooperation, and creativity. They had turned fear into curiosity, uncertainty into exploration, and observation into understanding. Earth had become a shining example of what life could achieve when intelligence, empathy, and curiosity combined. Across the planet, a quiet celebration emerged. People no longer feared the unknown. They embraced it with courage, creativity, and humility. Communities gathered to watch the stars, share knowledge, and imagine new possibilities. Humanity had awakened to its true potential, and the story of Earth had become a story of hope, growth, and connection. The aliens knew that the journey was far from over. Humans still had much to learn, but they had taken the first steps toward a future among the stars. The species was ready not only to survive, but to thrive, explore, and contribute to a universe filled with life. Earth was no longer a secret. It was a participant in the galaxy, a world of intelligence, creativity, and heart. And so, the aliens remained, watching, guiding, and learning alongside humanity. The story of Earth had reached the stars, and the galaxy had taken notice. Humans, fragile yet resilient, curious yet cautious, had finally stepped into their place in the cosmos. They had discovered that they were not alone, that life was vast and interconnected, and that the universe was a story waiting to be written together. In that moment, beneath the vast night sky, humanity felt a sense of unity, purpose, and wonder, unlike anything before. For the first time in its history, the species looked outward and inward, at the same time aware of its fragility, its strength, and its infinite potential. The aliens, silently observing, recognized that Earth had become something extraordinary, a world alive with intelligence, hope, and the promise of a future among the stars. Humanity's journey was only beginning, but for the first time, it walked forward with courage, wisdom, and a heart full of wonder. And above it all,